Okay, let's go over the minutes. Make a motion, please.
Make a
Move to
motion.
adopt.
Second. Okay. Discussion,
Look good to me.
good enough for me. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Minutes pass. We don't have much of a meeting today. It's short. Um,
Ben, I have a question about that. Why
sure.
are our meetings all short these days? We went through
You
a
know-
period of time like that before.
Well, we have such a great department. I guess they take care of a lot of things for us. But we went from extremely long meetings to very short meetings.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're going to discuss probably now too is the complaint status report. Have you got a copy of that? Everybody have a copy in front of them? It was part of an attachment. Our meetings actually could have been much longer if we would have did the education extension waiver request, which the department is going to review that themselves. And hopefully it'll be taken care of by them. But now let's talk about the complaints. Apparently, there's a lot of CAM reports. You know, Jill, you're here, Jill, right? Jill?
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, could you tell us, is there this many complaints for CAM property?
I didn't catch you.
The CAM license,
Yep,
there seems to be complaints, a lot of complaints about CAM.
there are.
The same thing all the time. I mean, I don't know. It seems like everything is null.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
lot of-
quite a few. They tend to be either dealing with a lack of registration or failure to provide documentation that unit owners are looking for. That's a lot of them.
Well, the unlicensed resident, you got 15,000 for that one. That was a good one. They should have. That was the only one that I see here that got fined. Am I correct?
I'm not sure offhand. I don't think that's accurate. I mean, the one right above it is 3,000. Oh no, that was something else.
Can it be
yeah.
15,000? I thought that was above the amount that we can fine.
No,
Is
well,
that
there's a
an- is-
difference.
Yep.
There's a difference between a settlement and a fine. Settlements are not fines. Settlements are agreements between the two parties, and there's no legal restrictions on what can be agreed to.
Okay, so I wanted to, what I was really asking, is that really 15,000 or is it 1,500? But it sounds like you're saying it is 15,000.
That one was 15,000.
And then there was another one here underneath it, unlicensed and unregistered, same as above. He only got a letter of caution.
Every situation is different.
I would say so.
Yeah, to me, the thing that, is really a problem is if you keep telling someone they need to get a license and they keep continuing and not getting a license, that to me is more egregious.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't tell people twice. You don't get multiple settlement offers.
Okay.
Why are there that many
And
with?
not to mention, we won't settle with anyone until they have a license. If the issue is that they didn't have a license or, registration, they won't get a settlement until or unless they actually have it. If they fail to get one, there's no settlement.
Why are there so many of them with no issues found?
No issues were found. Yeah, that's just
I mean,
the
but-
situation. They
if
didn't
they would've
violate the
been-
law.
I mean, they were brought, but they were not, I mean, I just wondering whether somebody were brought if there were no issues.
Because there's nothing to prevent anyone from filing a complaint for any reason, a good reason, or an awful reason, or no reason. And,
Okay.
we review it and then we say that, there's actually
I
no
can answer
violation.
that also in part because I am a CAM. So whenever someone who's a resident, an owner in a condo
Mhm.
association, if they don't like the board's decision, they often file a complaint against the manager. But it's not our decision. We serve at the pleasure of the board. We carry out the board's decisions. So they are misunderstanding the relationship and the role and what we are in charge of.
Jason, was the CAM always under real estate? And the reason I'm asking this question, we went many years, never seeing a complaint.
I mean, to my knowledge, it always has been, but I will say I think we're doing a much better job of enforcement, so that's probably why you're seeing more. And we've created great relationships in the industry. We've become very involved with the Community Association Institute of Connecticut, attending their events. We were just at their annual conference for the first time ever. And we're actually putting columns in their monthly newsletter, trying to educate the industry. So we're being very proactive about engaging with that industry.
The other thing is the CAM license is relatively new. I don't know if it goes back 10 or 15 years, but it doesn't go back 20 years. And it was still an unknown, unenforced, it was still the Wild West. More and more people are getting the CAM license that need it. But if you look at it, I think we have something like 20,000 realtors or something. You guys would know better than me, but CAMs, it's in the hundreds. It's a very small number. It's growing.
Right.
It's growing
Yeah.
rapidly. But not only are they getting licensed, but the general public is learning about this license and learning that they had recourse. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, no one had heard of this.
Right. And not to mention, a few years back, up until a few years back, a company could have a CAM license and the people who worked under them didn't need to have it. It was switched so that every individual needs to have a CAM registration. So that was a lot more registrations. And there's been the recent addition of the requirement of continuing education for CAMs. So the industry continues to evolve.
Okay, Jason, also I noticed here down below, there was an issue found regarding electrician. How is that involved here?
Well, it's not that that was the only credential he held, so that's what's pulled up. So, but this was clearly something we had no jurisdiction over, so there was no violation found against, as it says, no issues found. So it's not that we were taking action against his electrical license, just that this was a person who held an electric license that there was a complaint against.
No, we're not involved with electricians anyhow.
Right. But the claim was that he was, I don't know the case offhand, but likely there was a claim that he was doing some type of real estate, whether it was real estate or CAM work or whatever. And clearly we found that they weren't.
What about this unlicensed home improvement guy? We have a home improvement.
Probably there was, it was a settlement, so whatever the issue was.
Okay. I'm just trying to educate myself a little bit. Then you have a lot of these licenses say null. And then the found issues of null, and no action was taken null. What is null?
Null
Okay,
means there is no, like that, basically that's a blank. So that particular person doesn't hold a credential or didn't hold a credential.
Mhm. Okay.
I just to understand exactly what our role in this is. I mean, I assume that what happens is there's a complaint. If you can't resolve it, or if it's, if you don't find any issues, it gets dismissed. If you can settle with them, it gets settled. If there's it's going to be a hearing, is that where we get involved?
Optional, yes, it goes to legal. They first do a compliance meeting, which is an informal meeting with the respondent to determine, give them an opportunity, give their side of the story. And then legal can decide, what to do, whether to dismiss it, do a settlement, or go to a formal hearing. And then if it's a formal hearing, they can offer it to this commission. And if the commission declines, then it's done as an administrative hearing internally.
Okay. So we're sort of the last resort.
Yes, yeah.
I guess, so who makes the decision? Legal makes the decision whether someone, it's severeness of this is, should come to the commission or lose their
Well,
license?
no,
How's that all come about?
well, I mean, they bring it to you for a hearing, and from my understanding from legal, this board or this commission has declined a number of hearing opportunities.
But I guess what Ben is saying is it's legal just makes a decision whether or not they're going to whether you're going to decide or whether we're going to decide. And we're just wondering how how's that decision
Well,
made?
decide what? Yeah, they get to
Yeah.
decide if a settlement is offered or if it's going to hearing. But if it's going to hearing, it's conversation with basically with the chair to decide whether or not it's going to be a hearing before the commission or just an administrative hearing.
Okay, because I thought I heard you say that the legal department decided whether or not it was going to go to be decided by you all or decided by us. But you're saying
Yeah,
it goes,
no.
it would go to
Yeah.
Ben first?
Yeah.
I just see, like, for example, you got down below here, misrepresentation. You found, the fine was $4,000 for the broker. When the agent got fined also, I don't see any agents get any fine. I don't see any agents even being reprimanded here.
No, all the RESs are agents, but anytime
Yeah, but there's no RES.
as a general rule, if we take action against a salesperson, we also take action against the broker. But all you're seeing here is who the original case is against.
Okay. There's one here, the one for 6,000. The broker was fined, advertising unethical conduct and fraud. I mean, that's not a reason to lose your license.
Again, it depends on the situation.
How many actual hearings were held last year?
I couldn't tell you offhand.
I guess we had a couple.
I feel like we haven't had any hearings in years.
It was more than a year, yeah. And we know we had a couple, but that may have been a couple of years ago.
Well,
Life goes
Yeah, no,
by
I
so
know
fast.
there have been administrative hearings, but I know this commission through the chair has declined a number of opportunities. According to legal, that's what I'm told by legal. I wasn't involved in those conversations.
Mhm. Is that true, Ben?
No. No.
Okay.
No. No. Not complaints. There might have been other things that I went back to the department for because I felt they could handle that, and it shouldn't have been brought
Yeah.
up in front of us, but not complaints.
Well, I think they were cam related cases, and maybe you didn't want to hear the cam related cases. I don't know. But again, this is what legal told me. I can't really speak for legal.
I guess my main thing is that, as Ted is also is saying, that the severeness of some of these, and maybe they're not, but we're looking at different Some were null, some were 4,000, 6,000. I mean, it had to be pretty serious regarding this. Misrepresentation, neglect. I think some of these are serious. I like them to come, at least come to the committee. Why shouldn't we take their license?
It depends on the situation.
But so you make that decision whether or not the situation is severe enough to come to us, or it warrants them from losing their license. Am I correct?
The examiner makes the decision sometimes in consultation with legal. It's the bigger ones, we typically have conversations with legal, whether they feel it warrants a hearing or if they're comfortable with a settlement. Every case is dealt with individually. But a number of cases get referred to legal, and quite a few are pending with legal, for compliance meetings and hearings.
We don't have some kind of a playbook, or they don't have some kind of a playbook to make it as standardized as possible. I understand each case is unique.
I mean, there's a standard process. There's not a standard amount. Again, it depends. Some of it depends on, most of the time settlements come to the department, but sometimes if it's appropriate, we try and redirect some or all of the settlement money to the complainant if there's an appropriate situation for some restitution.
And so really that's one of the reasons of the high degree of variability. It depends on the economic harm and
Exactly.
and the use of the money. Now I understand. Yeah.
But now if you get,
If,
go ahead.
I don't know if things have changed. For a while back, we were getting complaints coming to us, and it was for us to make a decision on the license. And then it would go to the courts, and they're saying, well, this guy lost his real estate license. Okay, and they'll use us for that. And then we decided that, no, we don't want to be used anymore. So you go to court first and settle whatever you have to settle, then come back. So then we heard nothing any longer.
Hey, Ben, it's
Yeah.
Linda.
Last time.
Can we get somebody from legal to answer these questions? Because Jason keeps, telling us that that it's legal's decision. So I think we need to address these questions to legal.
Good. Again, I'm sure they're going to tell us it depends on the situation.
But again, going back again, so if you have an action which is relatively minor and it doesn't settle, what happens then? I assume that the department resolves it somehow?
Well, if we make an offer to settle and they refuse to settle, then we go to the formal hearing process, which begins with the compliance meeting and potentially a hearing.
Okay. So who hears those hearings?
Well, again, the legal can, and I believe offers it to the commission, and if the commission declines, they do an administrative hearing.
Okay. So that means if Amy's right, that means that there weren't any of those last year.
I have a question for you. So how many do you actually, because of what's going on the case, do you take their license immediately without, because you don't want them out there?
No, that we're not allowed to do that. Everyone gets due process.
Well, we've had a situation where people were end up in jail, and we made the decision immediately without the due process, take their license.
Yeah, I mean, if there is, some extenuating circumstance, for health and safety, the agency does have authority to do some summary suspension of a license. Like you'll see that typically with like bars. It's a pretty high bar to achieve. You don't, typically real estate is financial, so I don't know if it necessarily meets that bar. Again, that's not a decision for us, that's for legal, but that's a very high bar to achieve, to take a license without due process.
Well, actually,
Mr.
it
Chair?
turns out that about 99% of the license expired anyhow, so. I don't, we've seen that.
We've got Annalisa with us from legal.
Can you hear me?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
go ahead.
My mute
Who
is
is-
not working.
Yeah, we can hear you, Annalisa.
Okay, you can hear me, yeah. To address a couple of the questions, in some of the situations where we've had folks end up in jail, we've actually asked for voluntary surrenders of the license, so we have taken the license. It was done on a voluntary basis, so it didn't require a hearing. In the past year, there's two pieces. The hearings that we had last year were mainly to do with continuing education. And those were before a hearing officer. The other thing we're running into is if there is any claim, the unfair trade practices claim, those have to go before a hearing officer instead of the commission.
That was it?
I think those were the main questions I heard. If I missed one, please let me know.
Would you say so if you feel it warrants them to have their license suspended or so, to make that decision, we would never see that. It would be between you and the complaint individual. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, ask that one more time. When you say receive that, do you mean the restitution?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what we're focused on is making the complainants whole. And if we can do that through a settlement, that is usually, we have two goals: make the complainants whole and prevent a recurrence of the behavior. We want to make sure that people are not, as Jason said earlier, they're not coming back to us over and over again and getting settlements for the same behavior. That's not something we want to allow. And like you said, I think in a past meeting, we don't want it to become the price of doing business. So that's definitely something we are working to prevent. But if we can make the complainant whole and address the behavior with a settlement agreement, and then we don't see the same behavior again through another complaint, then that's, I believe, why so many of these cases are ending with settlements, because you're addressing the behavior and preventing a recurrence.
Is there a system in the department as a follow-up to check and make sure these are not occurring again from the individual?
Jason, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I mean, it would depend on the situation, but yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I can't really think of a situation, maybe something like advertising. Usually once it's corrected, it's corrected. Now, if we receive similar complaints, obviously we can't and don't see every ad that's out there. But we address it, and especially, like I mentioned before, because we also take action against the broker, they make a lot of effort to make sure their salespeople are then educated, because they don't want to keep getting nailed. And we've actually been proactive, meeting with the larger brokers to do some extra education and say, hey, you've got a lot of liability out there on the street. You're going to want to make sure your people are well educated. And to that point, we're actually about to announce a special quarterly meeting that we're gonna be having with brokers, like just an open meeting where we'll do a little bit of training and having open questions, just to give them additional training to support their salespeople. Because our first goal is education. When everybody knows and understands and follows the law, everyone's a winner.
Okay, any other question we can touch on this?
Sharon, you're muted.
If Sharon has a question.
Sharon, you're muted. Look on the top. Top right of your screen.
Okay,
Ah,
got
there
it.
you go.
So I have a question. There was one that stood out to me. It was a real estate broker. And part of the complaint was fraud. And then there was a $6,000 settlement. And I'm only hoping that with fraud involved in that broker is no longer practicing real estate. Like, how can we be assured that that's happening?
Well, I mean, it depends exactly what the issue was. Some of these issues as they're written are fairly broad. Again, if we felt it warranted getting them out of the industry, we would do everything in our effort to do that. And that would be certainly a conversation and a process with legal.
Thank you.
It's kind of interesting that years ago, we used to get a lot of a lot of complaints regarding escrow accounts. Now, that seems like it's gone completely, but escrow account was a situation where people either the broker took off of the account or they were commingling accounts. So this has not happened, or especially I think CAMs were notorious for it. What is that? You've not had any complaints whatsoever on escrow accounts?
I mean, we do see complaints and we address them. Sometimes there isn't an issue, sometimes there is, and we take the appropriate resolutions.
And I don't know about you guys. I mean, I am very reluctant to hold escrow. I try to leave that to the attorneys, whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
That's because you don't need money, Peter.
I mean, lots of times the complaints will be, who gets the deposit back. And of course, we have no role in that. We just say you either have to, come to a mutual agreement or it has to go to court, but you shouldn't be releasing it until there's that mutual agreement or court decision.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Yeah. No, I know. I was just, yeah.
We understand.
But I agree with you, Ben. It's hard to believe there haven't been some cases of that. I mean, that's just too tempting for people to
Yeah,
grab some money.
well, for a while, that was a problem. And not so much large firms, obviously. It was small individual brokers would have their own escrow account. But I'm seeing now that the trend has to be because of the large companies that really don't have offices, so they're making the attorneys hold the deposit. I'm sure you've seen that. Kind of makes you feel a little uncomfortable, but that seems to be the trend. Okay, enough touched on this complaint. Well, I'm sure we'll discuss this again. Then we'll be getting a copy of something every meeting. I want to talk a little bit about this land scheme that's been going around. I think almost every real estate agent has been involved of some sort, because including myself and agents all over. Whereas the individuals are going and getting the town records and looking for absentee ownership, and then calling an agent and says, I want you to list my land. And they have enough data. I mean, the one that I had was actually, individual, actually had, he showed me his license, he showed me this, he showed me that. He had the right names, pretty much he had done a lot of research. But this has been going on, so I did talk to Jason about this. Nothing we could do, I guess, apparently from the department. But I think as a commission, we should try to figure a way how we can warn agents about this going on. I did talk to Jason, I said, and talked to the local police, state police department, and they're saying they're getting so many complaints about it. And probably these individuals are not even in this country.
But Ben, what happens in these cases? Most of the cases, I mean, do they get stopped somewhere or do they go and get the land?
I don't know if if any's been conveyed, actually it gets caught somehow. But there was a lady from Madison who called me and said, real estate, one of them made a complaint about the real estate agent. Well, the real estate agent, this is a while about, maybe a couple of years now, was not aware of it, that the person she was talking to was not the person who owned the land. So, I don't know if any land has been conveyed, actually. Does anybody know? Amy, you had your hands up.
I had another question related to this. I think there actually was a piece of land conveyed. And I believe that the Bar Association is also kind of all over this because of it creates obviously legal peril for the attorneys too. But I do think there actually was a piece of land that had been conveyed. And wasn't there a house built on it too
Well,
after?
in Fairfield, yeah, that was the famous case in Fairfield where, yeah, they conveyed it and they built a house and, yeah, that was ugly. But yeah, we're still hearing a lot about it, but I'm hopeful that it's become a much more well-known issue in the industry. I hear people talking about it constantly. It's still difficult to catch, but there are steps you can take. And like
So-
Jill has said, recommend sending a letter to the seller that's on record with the assessor or the clerk and say, hey, thanks for listing your house with us. And if it's not them, they're going to quickly get back to you.
Yeah. So my concern is somewhat related because I'm a practicing agent broker. I am seeing the amount of phishing and scam/fraud inquiries that I get escalating rapidly. And I can only assume this is going to get worse with AI. And so for example, I listed 3 new houses recently. Every time I list a new property, I get 10 to 20 to 30 solicitations via email where the person says they're interested. They send me a Compass real estate link, and I don't know if the link is phishing or what it is. I never respond to them because I've figured out it's a scam. But then people are also interacting with brokers where they try to set up Zoom calls with them. The Zoom call link is then a virus which infiltrates the person's computer. I'm a fairly tech savvy agent and I'm trying to do everything I can to not fall for any of these, click on the wrong link to then compromise my computer and then have people have access to information they shouldn't. But like the scams are becoming much more sophisticated, and frankly, with AI, where voice and likeness can be created very easily and replicated very easily, I think we are going to be facing a massive challenge on the agent end of not being compromised by multiple parties and potentially putting clients' money and or personal information at risk because we're not aware of what's coming or because we are duped by an AI scammer who has essentially created a personality that we think is a client or attorney or co-broker or whatever. And I'm curious if the state is doing anything about this, CTR is doing anything about this, DCP is doing it, like brokers individually. I'm like petrified of like clicking on the wrong thing or interacting with the wrong person, thinking it's someone who they're not. And I just feel like no one's addressing this at all.
You know how the
Well,
title
maybe that should be a CE course coming up this year. Maybe we can get someone to,
Well,
or
I'm
find a
curious,
sub
like,
course
is the-
that's out there, because there is, I want to go back just for a minute to what Ben was talking about with the land sales, because I recently sold a piece of land and my attorney knew me well, but they were put through the ringer, like, who was this seller? I mean, they're really looking at it like they really weren't before. Not that a lot of sales went through, but a lot of them got close. And
But what happens when fraudulent deeds are created and reported?
well, I don't
Like,
think we've had like that. I think that would be something to do with like a town hall or something. I mean, that would be a random person that doesn't hold the license, that these people aren't licensed that are doing this type of fraud.
Right, but
And
who's to
even,
say that the document isn't real? Like this, so this is the question. Like, for example, is our bar association looking at all of this stuff?
well, that would be the town clerk that actually takes in that deed and records it and puts a timestamp on it.
In my town, there's a service where you can sign up, and I've got to do it, but I haven't done it yet, but where you can sign up and then I think they will notify you before anybody tries to transfer your
That's
property.
right. Several towns are doing that, right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. Whereas, but to get a release, if you do want to sell it, it's not that easy either. But the title companies have, the title companies, it seems like, have scrutinized this even more so, because obviously they're on the hook. So we got the title companies, the attorneys, the towns. They're more aware of it than they were even a year ago.
I mean,
mean, I'm
I'm to the
getting-
point where when a client needs to transfer funds now, I say bring a check. Like, I don't even, my office uses Deposit Link. I don't really want to use that. I had somebody have to wire money to an attorney the other day. And it's just, I feel like we're heading down a path where the scams are going to start, like, somebody's going to be bitten pretty hard. And then it's just going to be
Yeah.
like a
It's already
tsunami, because
happening, but you
I
know,
think,
I
yeah,
mean, and
there's so
and the
many bad
wires are
actors.
terrible. I hate the wires. And I'm getting the Zoom link also, you know, of me, you know, but I don't think that's within our purview. These are financial crimes. This is, you know, we're regulating real estate agents and CAM agents and so
It's not
forth.
in our purview, Peter, but like somebody needs to be educating us, particularly because I don't know what the median age of a real estate agent is, but it's probably 55 plus, I would think. So, you know, to be on the lookout for these things. I've gotten to the point where if you haven't been referred to me by somebody I don't know or haven't worked with in the past, I'm not going to work with you because I can't verify that you're a real person.
And
It's
by the
like-
way,
it's
to your
become
point,
awful.
not only is a lot of real estate agents are part-time agents, and some of them also lack the sophistication. We do this every day. So, you know, and it is
Right.
hard to educate all of these folks, and it is scary. Is this a topic that we should talk about for the next CE next CE rotation cycle?
I don't think we can talk about this because this isn't related to our mandated CE, because it's not one of the topics that's in the statute. But honestly, this is something that CTR and the local board should be looking at pretty hard, because again, like, given the age, and you know, I would say most agents are not tech savvy for the majority. Like, they need to do something to start at least raising awareness that this stuff is going to start happening. And it's like with you know, elderly fraud. We read all these articles about elderly fraud and how they're taken advantage of by phone calls and or email, with people scamming them out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's essentially that.
I think you're right.
This
I
fraud-
think
this fraud is everywhere. I heard on the radio this morning that 50 people showed up at the courthouse yesterday because they got text messages, said they had an outstanding a traffic violation with a Q code to pay, but 50 people went to the courthouse and they were all fraudulent text messages, there really wasn't any
Right, so
violation.
then they probably scanned a QR code that then has put a virus, like
Well,
hack them.
I think I think these people didn't scan the code. They went to the courthouse to say,
But
what
imagine all
is
the other
this?
people that
But
did.
how many did? Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, we,
Actually, my wife and I, my wife got it and I got it, the same text. Obviously, you could tell, but, yeah, we didn't open it, but, I'm
I
sure.
got it. I got it. I
I-
know it
you
was a
know-
scam because I don't drive, so.
I think you could have I think you could have a CE class for this. I mean, it wouldn't be a mandatory class, but I think you could have a CE class
Yeah, an elective.
because it does.
And I don't know if
it's-
anybody from CTR is on this call or not, but like that, and I'm happy to reach out and suggest that because I do think this is gonna become a problem.
Well, it's
Or it is
Well,
already
well,
starting to be a problem.
Really what it ought to be something between the title companies, the town clerks, attorneys and brokers. I mean, they're all the ones who are involved in it, in different ways. But I don't know whether anybody else is looking at this other than, I'm sure the town clerks are, and I certainly hope that the title companies are, but,
Well, the
I
title
don't
companies, yeah. Yeah, but you're right, that we should be sensitive to the fact of, to let the rest of the real estate people to understand the fact that, or warning, they may not even realize, some of these agents don't do a lot of business, are not aware what's going on. I bet you, I'll look at my emails today on it, there's gotta be 1, 2, at least fraudulent emails in there.
but I have got a couple of
Yeah,
of lands, and I get when I have a small piece of property too, and I get texts and emails all the time, wanting to buy it, which of course I ignore.
I guess I'm not sending you a text, Ted.
I know you are, I bet.
All right, this is something to keep on the back burner and mention it again, our next meeting, and see where we're at with it, because it's moving and changing quickly. So I think it's something we should discuss through the CTR. And I'm sure it's just not, they're exposed to this a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And brokers are really exposed.
Yes. Yes. Okay, anything else? The thing, by the way, so the thing is that we run reference to the land again. So what happens once you confront the individuals, is, by the way, you're a phony, all of a sudden all the communication is gone. Well, I think that individual actually goes to another agent on the same piece of land and goes through the whole thing. The cycle happens again. And we find somebody who's going to list the property. All right, if nothing else, then we're going to adjourn the meeting.
Great seeing you guys.
Have a nice spring and summer.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. By the way, I just want to say, if there's anything that you find out there in reference to what's going on with these fraudulent emails or fraudulent individuals, please don't hesitate to send me an email of it or send me a copy of it or something. All right, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
Bye,
you.
guys.
Hi,
Bye,
happy
everyone.
spring.